I want to empower the audience to believe that you have the power to change your emotional state. It's it's within you all the time, the ability to change how you feel. And you don't need an extreme life makeover to do that. Nothing in your external world has to change for you to feel better. And there are tools that you can use internally inside of your own mind, your own body, that can help you feel better now.
Welcome to Inspired Choice today. I'm your host, Caroline Biesalski, here to bring you authentic stories, surprising lessons, and powerful takeaways to fuel your journey in business and life. In each episode, I'll take you from one inspiring guest to the next, blending their experiences with my expertise to uncover practical strategies you can use right away. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, stay tuned for insights and actionable tips that make a difference. And stick around until the end for a special freebie just for our listeners. Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline and my today's guest is Gina Simmons. And I'm so happy that you are here. Welcome, and how are you doing?
I'm well this morning. I hear it's evening where you are. So I hope you're having a good day so far. You're the first appointment of the day for me. So happy to be here.
Oh, I'm happy that you said yes. And yes, I can tell you the future is bright. It is amazing. The sun is shining. Yeah, of course. And I love it.
Thank you.
So I would love to introduce you to the audience, of course. You are a licensed psychotherapist, executive coach, and author of Frazzle Brain, and you have to help me with the pronunciation here. I hope I did it right.
You
Frazzle
did.
Brain.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. So you are specialized in helping individuals manage anxiety, anger, and stress. With over 25 years of experience, you empower people to navigate intense emotions using neuropsychological techniques. You are also a recognized writer, blogging for Psychology Today and other prominent publications. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Gina Simmons. Oh,
Thank you so much for having me.
wow, this was great. And now, my first question is, what inspired you to write Frazzle Brain, and how can readers use neuropsychological discoveries to manage stress and anxiety?
I was inspired to write Frazzle Brain because during, even pre-pandemic, the big word I heard in my therapy and coaching sessions with executives, with all people from all walks of life, the word was frazzled. I feel frazzled. I feel stressed. I feel overwhelmed, right? So one of the things I'd been excited about is a lot of research in neuropsychology. And there are tools that we can use because I think a lot of people believe that being frazzled is an inevitable feeling when you're busy or when there are demands placed on you. That somehow it's these external pressures that are creating the internal reality that we're experiencing of stress and anxiety and all of those feelings we call frazzled, right? So, what I learned though is that it's actually our interpretation of what's happening to us, not actually what's happening. And that we have a lot of power over that. We have a lot of power over how we process what happens to us and the physiological consequences of that. So, what that means is that when we're experiencing external stresses, we can change our interpretation of those stresses. We can change how we process it. We can change our behaviors around it and calm ourselves down and and handle those kinds of stressors a lot better. So, what I called frazzled brain is really the combination of feeling a lot of pressure, of feeling maybe time pressure, of feeling work pressure, responsibilities of children, family, work, household, all of those things. We feel all of these pressures, and what that can do is it can create this sort of static in our brain where it's hard to focus, and we feel like we're just running, and not catching up. And physiologically, we can feel a lot of distress. We can feel depressed, even. We can feel worried. We can feel psychologically burdened. And then our body experiences that as maybe some gut discomfort, maybe some chest discomfort, maybe lower back aches, headaches. So we have physiological symptoms that go along with all of that, right? And that's because our brain is connected to our body. So how we think, so our body goes. So what I teach people is some self-calming techniques and tools, different ways of thinking and behaving that contribute to well-being and an ability to cope better with whatever life is throwing at you.
Oh, that's a great insight you shared. Thank you so much. I learned already something. Would you call it reprogramming?
Not
Or
so much reprogramming as maybe recognizing that how we describe our experience to ourselves internally shapes how our body responds and our emotions respond. For example, if I hear people say, I am sick and tired of this. If my boss says that to me one more time, I am just, and we mentally rehearse telling somebody off who's upset us, or we mentally rehearse being sick and tired. We say, I'm sick and tired of this. So, what are we saying to ourselves? This experience I don't like is happening. Therefore, I need to be sick and tired, right?
yeah.
So we're hypnotizing ourselves into feeling weak, into feeling vulnerable, into feeling overwhelmed. Instead, we can, if the more specific we can be in our definition, my boss it is really ramped up and nervous and is demanding a lot of me right now. That might be a more manageable problem than I am sick and tired, right? And so the way that we frame things in our mind shapes how our body responds and also shapes our emotional response to it. So a lot of times I start right away with, how am I thinking about this problem? And is there a different way I can think about the problem that might be more effective? So if I think about the problem as my boss isn't aware of how his or her behavior is affecting me, then it's a communication problem on my end that I can do something about. I can say to my boss, when you come in here first thing in the morning and you give me 15 more things to do, it's very hard for me to manage what the priorities are. So I'd really like to know what your priorities are today. Because when you come in like that, it really is not going to help you get the best work out of me. It's just kind of upsetting to me. So then it can become a communication problem that I can do something about. And now we may have some movement in a positive direction towards solving a problem. But if I keep guarding myself with, I'm sick and tired of this, I'm so, and mentally rehearsing a big blow up, which a lot of people do, then I'm keeping my blood pressure higher. I am maybe disrupting my sleep at night. Maybe I am feeling some gut sickness, some sick in my stomach, kind of tied up in knots feelings. None of those are really effective. So, and they're not necessary. I think that the first thing to realize is it's not necessary for us to go into a state of overwhelm and dysphoria and feeling all frazzled when problems happen. There's a different way of approaching problems. Like, one is, instead of expecting things to not break down, expect things that they will break down. My computer is going to break down sometimes, or my water heater at my house, or the car. So things are going to break down. Communication is going to break down. Miscommunication is going to happen. So one of the best ways to manage stress is to recognize that things are not always going to go as planned, and that is normal. So we reset our norms to reality instead of trying to make reality match our norms and then be freaked out because the car broke down, or freaked out because we can't get our computer to reboot, or we go, okay, this is another one of those computer malfunction days. I can deal with this. So I think we can learn ways to get to that place where we just accept as normal that things aren't always going to go as we planned or as we hoped. And that's true for our relationships, for our work, for our transportation, all of that. So like every time I fly, I go, maybe my plane will arrive when it's supposed to. It's okay. Delays are normal. There's hurricanes in America. There's things happening that will disrupt. So I don't need to be shocked and surprised if I'm sitting on the tarmac for an extra hour, right? Mm-hmm. So I think resetting our norms to reality can really lower our frustration and our sense of, our frazzled disruptions in our body. And so one of the big things about accepting reality is, instead of acting like, well, this should have happened, you should have anticipated that there would be a hurricane, and you should already have emergency people here. Shoulds get us in a lot of trouble because reality happens. And if we're not coping with reality, and we're just in the, you should have done this, this, and this, and this. If we're in the shoulds, we're not accepting and adapting to what is. And our best way of functioning in life is to accept life on its terms. And then cope with that, with the reality of what's happened. And the quicker we can get to that, the lower our stress level. So I see people a lot just fuming over, this should have happened. This person should have told me. I should have gotten the email. You should have said, I'm sorry. On and on and on with the shoulds. And the quicker you can just go, it's irrelevant what should have happened. Let's deal with what actually happened. Let's deal with what's actually happening right now, even better. Because right now is the reality we're in. So much pain and suffering and stress can be alleviated by just saying what's happening right now and what's my most effective way of coping with right now.
Wow, I love that. So I learned already something. It is like, maybe we can say, embrace reality or face it, become aware of it, and then expect the unexpected, right?
Yes, that is far more normal for people to miscommunicate than to actually communicate. So that's one idea that'll save you a lot of problems in relationships, if you can just assume that your email is going to be misunderstood, that the comment you made is not going to be received exactly as you intended it. And you might not even have spoken it as exactly how you intended to speak it, right? So miscommunication is the norm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actual communication is more rare, where we're really communicating a shared understanding of reality. We do this exercise in our conflict management classes, where we have people close their eyes, and we ask them, we tell them, we're going to say a word, and we'd like you to just picture and think of whatever that word inspires. And then we say, and the word is dog. And we go around the room, 30 people, 40 people, and each person thinks of a completely different thing. One person's thinking of their pet dog that they just had to put down, and they have a different emotional feeling. Oh, my dog died, and I loved that dog. Another person thinks about being mauled as a child by a pit bull, and they're feeling kind of nervous about the idea of dog. Another person is thinking about a cat. Another person is visualizing the word dog in a sentence, dog eat dog world. Another person is thinking of a golden retriever neighbor dog. Another person's thinking of a yappy dog that keeps them up at night and they wish that dog would die, you know. So every single person in the room has a completely different interpretation of the word dog. And that's a concrete word. That's a specific type of animal, right? So, and not a single person will have the exact same emotional response, nor will they have the same picture in their head when you say dog. So think about abstract words like justice, honesty, trust, love. How many different interpretations of those words do you think there are? And so when we think we're really communicating, we need to double check. Always. If it's important to you, you better double check. Does that person understand it the same way you intended it?
Oh, I understand. So it's like active listening and asking, and like we call it over communicating. I don't know if you call it that way as well. I learned this a couple of weeks ago that it's better to communicate too much because there isn't too much, it helps to
If
better
it's important, yes,
understand.
on something important where you really do need to convey some important information, it's always good to do the active listening where you say, and what did you hear me just say? And what does that mean to you? And do you understand, what's expected? And then even follow it up with in writing, especially in a business type situation where there might be lots of, important safety considerations, or there might be important financial, ramifications if the concept isn't and then in interpersonal relationships with people we know, a lot of times we assume so much with people we know because we feel like they know us, they get us, they understand. And a lot of times they don't. My husband's a therapist as well, a psychotherapist, and we're always having to even though we've been married for decades, we always have to double check. Did you understand what I just said? If it's important, obviously, if it's something that's not very important, it's not that, we don't need to over communicate. But it is better to not assume that communication has actually happened just because you sent that email that was so clear with the bullet points and the step-by-step instructions, because people
It
don't
was
read them.
clear for us, yes, not necessarily for the other person. So I have another question for you. Let's have a look. Can you share key strategies for handling intense emotions like anger in high pressure situations?
Yes, one of the best things to do is start again with yourself, with managing your own reactions. And you can do that with deep breathing exercises. A lot of times as a therapist, and I've had to go into sort of dangerous situations in my career, and I've had to go into situations where people were raging or throwing things, a lot of intensity. And I always start with my breathing. And you can start with, we teach 6 by 6 by 6 breathing. The military uses box breathing for PTSD survivors, people who've been in combat, that sort of thing. But it's very simple. You inhale through your nose for the count of 6. You hold your breath for 6 counts. and then you release it through your mouth for 6 counts, slowly. And you just start with that. And you can do that without anybody seeing or noticing that you're doing it. Like I'll do that in therapy sessions if I start feeling like my heart's racing and this is a high risk situation and lots going to be demanded of me. I just immediately start the breathing. And what happens is if you are dealing with an angry person and you slow your breathing down and you're not reactive, you're not immediately, lashing back, it has a calming effect on the animal brain of the other person. So hostage negotiators will do this. If they're dealing with a violent person who has a weapon and they have to try to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the issue, they will start with just calming down, slowing your language down, slowing the pace of your speech, lowering your voice. And what that does to the animal brain of the agitated person is it tells them they're safe, nothing bad's going to happen. And we have this saying in conflict management is that reactivity breeds dysfunction. So what that means is that if I react to somebody immediately who's really in an intense place, it makes the conflict elevate and escalate. So the best thing to do is not react immediately. Stay engaged, do some deep breathing. And then when you are communicating, your nonverbal communication needs to be very calm and very soothing in a way. And then what happens is when the other person starts to calm down and you listen to them first and try to understand what's motivating their agitation, then you can start to communicate. The more, and in a way, if somebody's coming at you with the force of their anger, they're giving you information that can be very helpful if you're listening. Our tendency, is to want to get away from it or make it stop, right? Mm-hmm. And that's normal kind of animal brain in our own brain is like, this is not safe. Let me get out of here, or let me stop this person because they're scaring me. But the information that's coming at you when someone is angry with you is very, very valuable. And so we often ask questions, to show that we're listening. One really magical thing that happens is when someone is angry with you, and they could be screaming, shouting, whatever, when you're speaking calmly and asking questions and showing an interest, they feel better. They start to feel like, oh, you're not the enemy. You are someone who wants to understand me. You are interested. Maybe I don't need to be screaming right now, So they start ratcheting it down a bit. And that then helps you, obviously, calm the situation down a little bit more. But to do that, we have to manage ourselves first. So that's why the deep breathing exercises are very helpful. Because when we're slowing our own breathing down, breathing in through our nose first, holding your breath for 6 counts and then breathing out slowly for 6 counts. When we slow our breathing down, we are telling our brain everything's all right. Don't need to freak out. Don't need to do anything extreme right now. So our brain calms down, and that helps clarify our thinking too. Our brain is now oxygenated. We have enough fuel in our brain to process things a little better. Because one of the things that happens when we're in a state of arousal is we breathe in a shallow way, and that can make us dizzy. It can fog our thinking. It can speed up our heart rate, and maybe we're not going to be as effective in that condition. unless we just need to run away. Sometimes we just need to run away, right? If it's a safety situation. But if it's a relationship with somebody you care about and they're coming at you with anger, sometimes the best thing to do is just listen and slow your breathing way down and manage yourself first.
Wow, I love that. I have to re-listen to this episode again because I learned so much. Thank you so much for our interview. And when people want to reach out to you, where can we find you?
Frazzlebrain.com. So Frazzle Brain, Frazzle, Brain, BRAIN, one word, .com. And you can find all my social media links there. There's also a free quiz you can take. How frazzled are you? Where you can get an assessment of like, where are you in terms of your stress level? And there's also a free chapter giveaway there if you want to better manage your gut microbiome. So there's a lot there for you, and there's some links to podcasts and things like that as well. So.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. This is so generous. I will test the test immediately. Of course,
Good.
I will link in the show notes. And thank you so much for our interview. Now is time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
I want to empower the audience to believe that you have the power to change your emotional state. It's within you all the time, the ability to change how you feel. And you don't need an extreme life makeover to do that. Nothing in your external world has to change for you to feel better. And there are tools that you can use internally inside of your own mind, your own body, that can help you feel better now. And my book has a lot of those tools in it. It's got like 23 different frazzle hacks, different ways to help yourself feel better.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. This is the best news. We get to choose our state of emotions. You said this, right? Oh,
right.
I'm so happy. Thank you for our interview.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Pleasure to meet you and talk with you.
Oh, and see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Inspired Choice today. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey of growth and transformation. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe to stay connected and never miss an episode. And here's something special. Grab your free 20-minute breakthrough session with me. It's designed to help you kickstart or level up your business. Just check out the show notes for more. Until next time, keep making those inspired choices. See you in the next episode.